Welcome to Logistics Business Conversations, where we talk with key spokespeople in the logistics industry about topical issues. Hosted by Peter McLeod, editor of Logistics Business magazine.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Logistics Business Conversations, sponsored today by Locus Robotics. Today we're going to have a deep dive into the world of warehouse AMRs. For those not familiar with the term, that's autonomous mobile robots. And who better to discuss this topic with than Mr. AMR himself, Denis Niezgoda. He's Chief Commercial Officer of Locus Robotics. Hi Denis, and welcome to Logistics Business Conversations.
Hey, Peter. Thanks for having me.
It's great to chat to you again, Denis. And I'd like to say that we've chosen quite a broad topic here. So how do we narrow this down? Where do we start? Come on, give us a way in.
Maybe we start with explaining what AMRs are all about. What's the increasing interest? What's potentially different to previous technologies? What people are excited about?
Sounds good to me. Let's go.
Sure. So I think the nature of mobile robotics describes robotic vehicles who can do point-to-point movements in a natural space without any additional infrastructure. There's a previous term called AGVs, automated guided vehicles, which you've seen actually over decades in very structured environments. Think of manufacturing, think of production lines, doing very standardized A to B, B to C movements. These were following, like the name says, guided magnetic stripes, inductive stripes, those sort of things. The challenge with it is relatively reliable, but if obstacles are on that exact path, or if you would require to change the infrastructure, you gotta, remodel the whole thing. Those vehicles cannot move around obstacles. They need that additional infrastructure.
Right. Okay. So we're talking, chief benefit of an AMR over an AGV is the fact that they're free roaming and can be flexed, scaled. Perhaps talk to me a little bit more about flexibility, because we've had automation providers coming in on over the weeks talking to me on Logistics Business Conversations, and they're saying, we're moving away from this misconception that automation means fixed.
Yeah, exactly. So mobile robotics then being independent of additional infrastructure, understanding its environment. Think of AMRs are receiving eyes to see and understand their environment, equipped with the brains to, do something with the information. So it gives you flexibility in where automation can be implemented and rethink what can be automated today. Think of all the thousands of existing warehouses out there who may not necessarily be comfortable to transition to full automation because it's disruptive. It's going to change your entire operations. It's going to put eventually a full stop to, your existing warehouse for a long, long time. With mobile robotics, you essentially can do more with your existing assets. You throw robots into existing processes that have never been designed for automation.
I have to say that when I first came into the industry, warehouse automation was kept in cages because you had the potential to lose a finger or have a toe run over. Back in IMHX in September, I walked into Hall 5, walked across your stand, and before I knew it, I realized I was standing amongst mobile robots. And of course, they didn't roll over my foot because they're now designed to work alongside your warehouse workers. Again, that's a great plus for AMRs.
Absolutely. And the beauty around it is, if you think about a warehouse space, there's some more horizontal workflow from each picking to case picking, point-to-point transportation between inbound storage outbound, replenishment tasks. The options, the opportunities for mobile robotics are endless. And again, specifically in comparison to stationary automation, may be very applicable for greenfields, for building up new sheds. But again, if you think about all the warehouses out there, there's so much opportunity to actually do more with. One upper angle of flexibility, if you think about it, it's not just only the flexibility where it can be deployed, but also how much are you automating? What's the degree of your automation on day 1 versus day 120? And how is that potentially scaling up, but also scaling down based on the requirements you have?
So we're talking peaks and troughs here?
Exactly. Think of retail, commerce, traditional peak season week, cyber week, return to school, take an outdoor retail provider, hiking season, all those sort of dynamics. And traditional automation is built from day 1 to what your highest design throughput needs to look like, because you can't necessarily scale it up easily. You can scale it to some degree, but effectively it's always a new construction. With mobile robotics, on the other hand, simply saying you throw in robots as many as you need in order to handle your throughput. And as that changes, there's a shape of a week, shape of the month, shape of the year. You add robots or you reduce robots. So you always have the right level of automation in place. That is supported by a different way of how to commercially agree with customers to adopt those bots. So historically, you purchase your automation, you purchase your assets, you depreciate those over time. There's a service fee and an end. But if you think about that model, it doesn't really give you the flexibility to flex it up and down. So we've been moving to a subscription model where Locus is essentially providing you the number of bots for the period of time you need. And if your business requirements are changing, we're looking for a joint solution to respectively adjust that. So Locus controls the assets, Locus supports the assets. Everything is included in such a subscription fee. Think of maintenance, repair, operations. Effectively, given it's our own assets, it's our problem to handle. Fundamentally, fulfillment uptime. So you're subscribing for the throughput that automation is realizing.
So this model called Robots as a Service keeps them off the balance sheet.
Exactly. That's exactly right. They'll stay on ours.
And how does that work in principle then, Dennis? You've got a stock and your customers tap into that accordingly. How, can they get one the next day? Can they get a fleet the next day? How does it work?
Yeah, so I'd say we can make magic happen overnight. We have infrastructure in the core markets, North America, Europe, APAC, and effectively the robot is a standard bot. There is custom configuration to handle e-commerce totes, to handle outbound cartons, to handle custom specific designs in order to accommodate customers' order profiles. But effectively, the robot is a standard robot. So what happens is we, as the business matures, have a very strong perspective on what the forecast looks like, what the growth demand is. Peak season planning happens together with our customers far in advance. And then, yes, there is unforeseen and short notice demands. So there is a inventory hold that is then, quickly turned around, custom configured and shipped out. Yes, we can ship a few bots on the very next day. If you need 50 or 100 additional bots, which some customers need, our largest sites are 350 bots. They need 300 additional robots just for peak season. And that requires a bit of upfront planning.
So, Dennis, forgive me if you don't know the answer to this, but let's have a go anyway. Do you know the size of the global fleet of Locus bots?
I would actually hope I get the number right. It's about 16,000 bots across 350 warehouses worldwide.
So what does that average out per warehouse?
Yeah, so it's, I would say new installations range between 50 to 100 robots today on average. Quite interesting is we've started the business 10 years ago. First warehouses were maybe 10, 15, 20 bots a site. Very applicable for small, medium enterprises. The usage of the adoption of AMRs was still relatively new, and the perception has been, if I go high throughput, high volume, I need stationary automation. If I have a small enterprise that doesn't have the capital outlay, that doesn't want to go in the risk, AMRs may be the solution. That said, as the technology evolved, the complexities that can be handled have increased. Now, our largest warehouse, like I previously mentioned, is about 350. We're just deploying a 380 bot site in Germany. Those go in peak well beyond 500, 600, 700 robots.
So are there any barriers to adoption? Are there any challenges around implementation? What does a business need to do to get up and running?
I think it's a couple of topics. On the one side, in most cases, as you look at automation, you want to understand what's the fundamental bottom line, right? You want to understand your business case. In order to understand your business case, we're modeling against customer requirements. How many robots do you need? How many warehouse operators do you need? What's the performance uptick? What's your ROI, et cetera, et cetera. So the high quality of data is critical in order to get it right first time. So the better the inputs are, the better the output is that we predict. So that can be one of the challenges for warehouse operators to feel comfortable with the data accuracy they have, the extraction from WMS and ERP systems in order to adequately model, not just only model for, if you can think about the seasonality, model for one scenario, but actually model for multiple scenarios that give you a good, long-term. I think another challenge is change management. I still think the cultural adoption across many, many countries in which we operate is challenging the status quo, being able to embrace a transformation project, have the stamina to start it right, but bring it over the finish line. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, actually.
What about compatibility with existing systems within warehouses? Challenges around that?
75 plus WMS systems have integrated with our solution. There's, through APIs, middle layers, technically all sorts of feasibilities to, establish that handshake. There may be maybe physical barriers based on, how critically infrastructure is tied to the floor and how much, AMRs can move around that. Think of owl width, so the width of an owl. There's still limitation for robot navigation. You have, exemplary pick towers with very narrow owls where robot navigation is just very difficult, and with that, value creation is very.
Now, Dennis, listeners to Logistics Business Conversations know that I'll always ask a question about AI. So where is AI deployed across Locus Robotics?
Yeah, sure.
As a business, and how do you use it to benefit the operations of your customers?
Of course, people like rolling their eyes when they hear about AI, right? Where Locus feels relatively confident to speak about AI is mainly driven by the fact that we've been doing this pretty much since day one. So if you think about, I don't want to debate definitions of AI, but our system is learning, it's adapting, it's improving. AI is within our navigation stack, like it's vertical value creation. It's all in-house, so the navigation stack is in-house. Software development, hardware development, all of that. And if you think about the proximity we have to our customers, data that our bots are generating, think of, again, 16,000 robots and driving 600 miles a year throughout the warehouse. We have 100 million plus metadata points for stock keeping units that our customers are handling. There's so much data that is being leveraged into continuing to improve our solution and fundamentally create more value for our customers. It ranges from, again, improving and maturing the navigation and the behavior of robots, but also the intelligent orchestration between people and bots throughout the warehouse to create more efficient time spent on picking or other tasks. It's the explainable version of AI where dashboards are generating actionable information for operators to continue to maximize it. So it's really about getting more for, the investment you've been actually realizing. And AI is deeply integrated into that. One other area I'm personally very excited about is our next product within the family called Array, where we're essentially navigating a fully autonomous mobile picking route. That mobile picking robot is going to be equipped with computer vision and the respective dexterity to manipulate stock keeping units fully autonomously. And AI is deeply integrated into the respective computer vision aspect. So
I guess, Dennis, here we're talking about commonality of platform with this new solution. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it's a development of what we already know from Locus Robotics?
Yeah, so think about, if you think about what's core to us, it's subscription, it's flexibility, providing the right robot for the right job. Array is a natural evolution of Origin and Vector, essentially fully automating the picking process for a selected number of stock keeping units, for a selected order profile. It's increasing density within the warehouse due to double-toed storage and the respective manipulation and more efficient storage within that medium. And there is eventually never going to be a world where a robot can fully autonomously pick every single item in the world for any single order. But if you bring the best out of different worlds, you will have many hybrid environments where you find Array for selected stock keeping units, for a selected SKU velocity to be the perfect fit. It allows you to increase your independency of labor that is already hard to find. So you have your fully autonomous area with higher density, etc. And then for every single order, for every single stock keeping unit that cannot be handled in that environment, you keep bringing the best of the human dexterity and the robot capabilities in motion together. And if you think about the subscription, you're never stuck to any of these robots. So if your order profile changes, if the evolution continues and the dexterity expands and you can even do more with Array, you just fundamentally gradually replace each piece of your fleet and you proportionally adjust that based on how your business is changing. Particularly critical for 3PLs who respective dynamic in how quickly their customer profile can change within a respective warehouse.
Dennis, I've had the privilege of working with you, alongside you, watching your company grow for a number of years. Where's future growth going to come from?
So future growth is going to come primarily from core regions we're already seeing strong adoption within. North America, Europe overall is very strong. Consumer markets. The landscape of existing warehouses is similarly large, and still there is an assumption that about 80%, if not even 90% of all those warehouses manually operated. So there's still a lot of untapped potential. We're still just scratching the surface. So that's one area as it relates to the core use cases we support today. However, if you think about the complexity of the warehouse, the number of different use cases out there, we will see gradually new solutions, potentially within Locus, potentially outside of Locus. I think of container unloading and loading, think of, alternatives around case picking, inventory counting, etc. There's so many different applications. So we'll continue to see more penetration and automate things that previously couldn't be automated due to an increase in the technical capabilities.
Will we see in the future a really big Locus bot that has the capability to lift up a container, or maybe even an empty container?
Never say never.
Never say never. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be the same platform, but I imagine a lot of the same qualities and principles would come into play there.
Exactly. If you think about the capabilities a robot needs to have, they all come predominantly from the software that is already out. Every robot shares the same navigation stack. The business logic, the overall enterprise, capabilities, the architecture, all that is in place. So you plug in different robot form factors to provide different jobs. So the time we eventually decide to expand beyond the traditional fulfillment space to manipulate containers, of course, that could be fed into the stack, for sure.
I guess AMRs thrive within the four walls of a warehouse because it's there's a known environment there. So as soon as you start taking them dockside, all sorts of other factors come into play. Let's have this conversation 5 years from now and see where we are, shall we?
Sure.
So as we're coming towards the end of this edition of Logistics Business Conversations, I just wondered, can we reflect a little bit on Locus Robotics and its success? What have been some of the highlights or the milestones that you've seen over the years, and what keeps you excited about the future?
Sure. So I think one angle that we touched on is already just the sheer size of the fleets. Following Amazon Robotics, following maybe 1-2 players, I think we can proudly say we have one of the largest late-gen robotics fleets out there. But if you think about customer value, people probably don't care how many robots you have out there. It's more about how much volume have we actually handled for customers. We've recently celebrated 6 billion picks for customers. It's an important milestone. We're now, focused on the next 4 billion to reach our first 10 billion. That's going to be an incredible milestone. Launching Array as the next product, which is planned for next year, is going to be outstanding, and continuing to execute on our AI roadmap and fundamentally deliver on the bottom line, which customers are expecting.
Am I mistaken? Was it only 2022 when you celebrated your first billion?
That's about right.
And here we are towards the end of 2025. So we're seeing exponential growth there.
That's what you call exponential growth. Exactly. It translates roughly into almost 50 million units handled per week.
You know what? In logistics, I love the data. There's so much of it. The numbers are incredible. Dennis, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a great pleasure, as always, speaking with you. Thanks also to Locus Robotics for supporting this edition of Logistics Business Conversations. And thanks also to you, our dear listener, for joining us today. Wherever you get your podcasts from, please subscribe to Logistics Business Conversations to make sure the next edition is delivered straight to you as soon as it's released. Until then, it's goodbye from Denis Niezgoda.
Thanks.
And it's goodbye from me, Peter McLeod. Goodbye.